Okay, so I think we're ready to go now. So again, yeah, thanks for everybody for attending the webinar this morning. Obviously, RGB have been representing SurgeX in the UK market for a number of years now, and we do really wholeheartedly believe in their product range and its ability to both protect and improve the performance of the electronic equipment connected to it. So we're delighted that we've got so many people on board this morning wanting to listen to this webinar. So just to introduce the couple of people we've got connected this morning who are going to be going through a presentation with you. So there's Justin Peyton, he's the EMEA sales manager based in the UK, and we've got Vince who's based over in the US, one of the more technical guys. So between them, they're going to be going through the presentation this morning. There will be a chance for Q&A at the end, but as any of you that are familiar with Zoom calls are aware, there is a chat box. So if you do have any immediate questions, please pop them in there, and we'll do our best to answer as many of them as we possibly can. So I'm now going to hand over to Vince and to Justin, and you'll perhaps hear from me again at the end of the presentation. Okay, Vince, Justin, over to you.
Hi there, good morning. Just going to pull up my presentation. Sorry about that. Hopefully everybody can see that. Okay, good morning. So can you hear me, hopefully? My name is Justin Peyton, and I'm the sales director EMEA for SurgeX. And on the line with me from the US, very early in the morning for him, unfortunately, 7 a.m. I think, is Vince Luciani. He's our senior sales engineer, and he's basically our technical trainer for the company. So Vince has spent many years in a senior sales engineer position with the company, and he's highly skilled in all technical details of our product. And I guess that he's best way to describe is almost our technical pre-sales. He's going to help you through any queries that you would have. So,
good morning, everybody.
Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying good morning, everyone.
Hi, good morning. So just a little introduction to who SurgeX are. Yeah, we're the market leader in power protection, conditioning, and backup power. Put simply, we've been around for 30 years. We were purchased 4 years ago by the Amatec Corporation, and Amatec is a large BMO, around $5 billion of sales revenue globally. But the one thing that Amatec is famous for is we are a very technical group of companies. Often they are the leaders in their field, in fact, more than most, and they are very much innovation and technical engineering driven. So in fact, for instance, within SurgeX, we have 45 patents across the board for all of our portfolio. And we've been doing business for a number of years in different market sectors. We started our life off in digital imaging 30 years ago, working with big players in the market like Toshiba and Ricoh and Canon and Sharp, making basically power protection devices for large imaging machines, because in those days power was very critical and it was a big issue, and we developed a range of award-winning products for those types of devices. And then we quickly found ourselves drawn into the AV market, if I'm honest, because people said, well, actually, you know, we need such a device like that because we've got, you know, issues with equipment in racks, or we've got issues with equipment out on floors in various different areas, in mobile areas and areas where they were looking for a really good power solution. So we partner pretty much today with most of the leading integrators, installers, all the key installers globally. So from your sort of AVI SPLs to your Whitlocks to your Fords to, and I know the names are changing, especially in the last few years. But we're out and about globally. We're represented in 45 countries globally, and we are growing our business all of the time. So just to really explain a little bit more, one of our other companies underneath the Amatec group is called PowerVar. As the name would suggest, PowerVar is actually a company also recently purchased over the last years by the Amatec Group, and they are a pure manufacturer of UPS devices. So that's all they do, a little bit like us. All we do is we manufacture our surge elimination devices. They manufacture UPS devices and engineer and develop them. And we make a pretty formidable partnership because it was one area of the business where we didn't have historical critical expertise in UPS. We needed that, and therefore Amatec bought PowerVar. So we sit alongside them as a sister company. You won't see our UPS product branded PowerVar, and that's because it's branded SurgeX, because that's the name that internationally people know. But it is useful to know that within the PowerVar assortment, we have about 600 different UPS devices, ranging from sort of, from around 2K right the way up to 400K, and from single phase to 3-phase. So we have existing within our current SurgeX line, actually only listed 5 UPS products. But if you do have a demand for other more specialized UPS or larger scale UPS products, we can bring those to you. That's something you would need to inquire with RGB. So what is really our ethos, and what is really, if you like, our DNA? Well, our DNA that we give to you as a partner, and that we actually expone into the marketplace, is that we develop for our customers a proper power foundation. So when we talk about power foundation, we use the analogy here like a deck of cards. Literally, whether it's equipment within a rack or equipment, out on a like a live stage or wherever it may be, at the end of the day, that kind of unforeseen, that thing that you can't see, which is behind everything, is power. So it's something that we take for granted, and it's something that our customers take for granted, but it's also something that, woe betide something goes wrong, it's the first thing that you notice out there with an issue either inside of the equipment, or an issue out there in the field that can't be controlled. So we build for our customers a power foundation for their AV equipment, for their AV projects. So that means for us, beginning at the very basics, whether that's the purity of the power, whether it's conditioning the power, whether it's filtering literally the electricity and the signal that's coming into the equipment, on all basis, we are constantly dealing with that power to make sure that you've got a really, really good foundation with inside your installation. Okay. Maybe now I'll hand over to Vince Luciani, and Vince probably can walk you through this slide better than me, because this is what we call our 360 degrees advanced power protection, and it's behind most of our products. Like I said, it's our DNA, and what differs us from the rest of our, how can we put this, competitors in the marketplace. So over to you, Vince.
The way that we have some of our documentation, we put these little badges on there to signify which features that we have on the pieces of equipment. So advanced series mode, that is our surge elimination technology. Advanced series mode, I think it's the biggest differentiator that sets SurgeX apart, in that no one else can claim to eliminate surges. Everyone else is a surge suppression device. We're a surge elimination device, and we've got videos, we've got some other collateral that goes more in depth into it, but kind of in a nutshell, the way that an advanced series mode works is it's very similar to noise canceling headphones, where we look at the waveform coming in, and if we see any surge energy on it, we actually create a equal yet opposite surge inside what we call the reactor inside there. And we use an additive process, which when you add the original signal to the equal yet opposite signal, it cancels just the high frequency signal or the surge out of it, and eliminates the surge without turning off the product. Just lets it go through. So it's very unique technology. We have EMI RFI filtering as well. It's very similar. A lot of other power protection products also have EMI RFI filtering. What sets ours apart is that it's impedance tolerant. And again, not to get too far into the weeds during this presentation, but we can certainly talk about the differences between our filtering philosophy versus others. The catastrophic over and under voltage shutdown circuitry is a circuitry when the voltage goes too high or the voltage goes too low. We're going to turn the equipment off to protect it. High voltages usually lead to damage. Low voltages usually lead to lockups. So we want to reset the equipment in both of those cases. In conjunction with that catastrophic over and under voltage, we have this current inrush circuitry, because if we're turning your circuitry on and off, or if we're turning your equipment on and off, we need to also provide current inrush, because every time you turn on a piece of equipment, it will experience a current inrush, and we want to protect the equipment from that. And that's another big differentiator, is that inrush. A lot of people in their higher end of a line, might have that catastrophic over voltage, under voltage circuitry, but they do not have the ICE in conjunction with it. So here's an example of the difference, the main differentiator between us and the competitors. When you look at the competition's line, and we'll be talking a little bit at the end about the competitive matchup, a lot of the competitors are using standard MOVs. There's a couple of Furman products that they're using something other than that, but we'll get into that later. But most of what you're going to come across in the field out there is a standard MOV, and an MOV is a device that is designed to sacrifice itself and to blow up, right? And to sacrifice itself in order to save the equipment. It's not a surge elimination device, it's surge suppression. So it takes that 6,000 volts and it brings it down to a number less than 6,000 volts, but it's not zero let through like SurgeX is. And they also contaminate ground. So those are the three pillars that when you are talking about SurgeX, that you can point to. You say, look how much circuitry we have versus what they have. But we are surge elimination, the only company in the world that can claim that. We're permanent, non-sacrificial. We will work literally for as long and for longer than the lifespan of the equipment. Just kind of an example of that. You may have seen Justin at ISE in the past. The piece of equipment that we use at ISE to demonstrate our capabilities has been in the road case with the surge generator for the last 10 years. We've been using that same surge elimination device as a demo. And if you've seen the demo, we're hitting it with a surge about every minute for the entirety of the show. So we've been doing that for shows across the world for 10 years with the same exact SurgeX device. So it's a very robust. And then the third pillar there, no ground contamination. We're not contaminating ground in any way. We eliminate the surge by cancellation, and we do not divert it to ground in order to save the equipment. So here's just a graphic that just kind of sums it up, the difference between our products and standard MOV base. Again, those same three pillars: surge elimination, the fact that it's permanent, non-sacrificial, and no ground contamination. So if you take all of these different technologies that we talked about and you add to them features such as sequencing, and some of them have IP-based control, and you look at the different form factors, right? Whether they be rack mount or standalone or branch circuit, that's what makes up the SurgeX line. And I know as being representatives, and some of them are maybe end users on the call here, it's sometimes confusing to go through a manufacturer's product line because there's so many. But if you look at it this way, it kind of makes it less daunting. right? You know, protection, and then features and form factors make up the product line. So we're going to be talking about a couple of different products today, from the Access Elite all the way through to UPSs. But I think we should just go ahead, Justin, so we can get to some questions at the end. Our flagship product, the Access Elite, it's our IP-enabled product, which you know, that is probably the you know, the main thing that it does. But really, actually, that's not true. The main thing that it does is it can act as a sequencer if you want it to, but it's a very advanced sequencer. It's got the IEC outlets on the back. Each of the outlets are individually controlled. So you can set up sequences using all the outlets, or you can set up sequences using only part of the outlets, and you can actually have 2 or 3 sequences programmed individually, right? You can have your IT on one sequence, you can have AV gear on another sequence. But what makes this device very, very unique is that the sequences are triggered by external you know, events, right? It's these triggers. The trigger, for instance, can be a clock that is built into it. You know, if you know, our sequencer, which we'll be coming to in a few minutes here, you know, standard sequencers work off of a button push, right? You push a button to turn it on, a human pushes a button to turn it off. But with this event-based sequencing, the on or off could be triggered by, like I said, a time clock, can be triggered by temperature in the rack, can be triggered by current flow through the unit, can be, you know, it's a very, very powerful tool that some people say, you know, maybe I don't need a control system because this thing can control the turn on and the turn off of our devices very, very easily. You know, later on, I'm sure Justin will give you a website to where we store a whole bunch of videos. We did a power hour, we call it over here, is our monthly webinar series. And we devoted an hour to Access Elite. Just the entire hour was to Access Elite programming. So if you want to learn more about this, we have some footage, you know, you know, on our website to be able to show you that.
Yeah, I think one of the key things, I mean, as a salesperson rather less than technical, one of the key things about this product is it's completely customizable. So it's customizable according to yours or specifically the customer's needs. So what a lot of people find these days is that, you know, like Vince said, you're sometimes going into an environment where you've got IT and you've got AV and you've got one manufacturer and you've got another manufacturer and you've got a whole different set of components, all as it were, sort of jumbled and mixed together. Sometimes you haven't even put those components in. Somebody else has actually put them in. And you go into a situation where, you know, you're being asked to as it were, sequence or control all of those outlets. And you're going to find, you know, there's hiccups. There's things going on that are outside of your remit. Like Vince said, you know, sometimes the rooms are getting very hot. Sometimes certain times of the day, things are going wrong, like, you know, the building, electricity's going on. And you're finding out some of these problems literally as you're going along. What this unit actually allows you to do is to almost to an infinite level completely control as many of those parameters as possible, and to take advanced preventative, as it were, preventative action against those issues. So it's allowing you to problem solve in advance. It's allowing you to put in place a whole series of parameters where things can go wrong, where things, you know, potentially are going to happen or are happening, and to resolve them. And at the end of the day, that's what your customers are looking for. They're looking for that level of control, because what it means to them is it means, you know, rebooting, it means downtime, it means issues with IT, it means issues with AV, and we just want those issues to be solved, to either be solved in advance with preventative actions, or to be solved as fast and as quickly as possible remotely, so that
and actually, Justin, I would add to that, not only fix them remotely, but fix them automatically. If you think about the current state of affairs, you have AV gear installed in an office building, say, and you have a power issue that glitches the equipment. Currently what happens is a telephone call has to be made to the service company, and the service company has to dispatch an engineer on site, right? So there's a lot of downtime there, So the second level on that, people started coming out. We're not the first company to come out with an IP-based equipment. There's probably some other IP-based stuff on there. But the second level is that same scenario happens. An issue occurs. The customer is without their equipment. They make a phone call, but instead of you sending an engineer on site, the engineer is doing it remotely. Okay, well, we've taken it to a next level with the Access Elite, to where there's no call ever made, right? There could be an electrical event that happens at 2 o'clock in the morning that glitch the equipment, right? So that the next morning the customer would come in to a system that doesn't work. Well, the Access Elite is monitoring the situation, and if the Access Elite sees a situation where the system needs to be rebooted to get it up and running, we'll reboot it to get it up and running. Like for instance, one of the complex triggering sequences is an auto ping from the IP port. We auto ping on any site. It can be inside the building or external to the building. And if the acknowledgement does not return, then the Access Elite, surmises that the IT equipment needs to be rebooted because there's some kind of glitch in the IT chain, and if the problem happens to be local, then we have rectified the situation without any intervention by any human. And that's really the beauty of the Access Elite, is automatic rebooting, automatic analysis of the situation, and automatic rebooting with no user intervention. So the next product, the Envision, this is a very it's been a great tool for us. This particular tool was first used by our sister brand name here in the U.S. called ESP. So SurgeX, our sister company ESP, mainly sold into the copy machine industry, and they, this product was developed over there. Then we brought it over to the AV industry, and it's really worked out well. What it is it's a power analysis tool. You plug it in, and it collects data. It can collect up to 138 days worth of historical data, and it's really a tool to let you know before installation, what kind of power situation you're getting yourself into, right? You can address those situations before you even get on site. But the cost of this tool is so low and so reasonably priced that a lot of our dealers in the U.S. just leave it on site. And the reason why you leave it on site is because 6 months down the road, if that particular installation were to get some power issues, it is a troubleshooting tool that allows the technician to either rule in or rule out electrical service as the root cause of the issue. And then more so than not, it proves that electrical issues are the problem and not your equipment, right? Now remember, you've got SurgeX installed, so some electrical issues are going to be taken care of automatically, right? But there's some electrical issues, unless you get a UPS, and we'll talk about the UPSs later on. Some electrical issues like outages are just maybe not in your are definitely not your responsibility. So this Envision tool allows you to prove that power outages are the problem. The reality is sometimes power outages don't last a long enough period of time for your customer to realize that the power went out. with today's offices where they're using a lot of windows, a lot of ambient light, sometimes lights are not on. And with computers, laptops, they automatically have a UPS built into them, right? Called the battery, right? So it's possible that the humans in the office don't even realize that the power went out for 3 seconds. So this is a great tool to keep track of all power anomalies, about the voltage. It keeps up with the voltage that's going on throughout that entire time. Sometimes the power doesn't turn off, but you get voltage fluctuations that are a root cause of the problem. And again, this tool allows you to prove that. So it's a really very powerful tool for you guys to use.
Yeah, just to be clear about that particular device, because I've been asked this question a few times. Obviously, it comes with both hardware and software, so there's no license for that software. The hardware is 10 years, and the software, in fact, we're constantly developing and updating. The beauty of that, really, as well as Vince said, is that it provides a complete, not just monitoring, but also a reporting tool. So that you can, again, similar to the Access Elite, you can set up specific reports. So in other words, you can, if there's, I can give you some examples. We have some customers where they're not just managing, one company, but a whole number of companies, AV installations within an office building on a number of floors. And what they need to do is they need to see where the issues are, floor by floor, and then they need to receive periodically, sometimes it's daily, sometimes it's weekly, sometimes it's monthly, those reports. And the reason why they need those reports is because that's part of the SLA to the customers, so that they can prove to the customers where the issues are occurring. It's an advantage for them also to be able to show that actually the issues that are occurring aren't down to their installation. They're not down to the equipment within inside the rack or within inside the rooms, but they're down to things outside of their control. So for instance, the building's maintenance people, or people running lift shafts at strange times of the early in the morning or in the evening, that's tripping some of the electrics. And that helps those customers then go back to either the buildings management, or even the people in charge of the other areas of electricity, as an example, and prove to them, look, this is the issue, this is what's happening, what are you going to do about it? So again, it's quite a powerful tool. It can be completely customized, all the reporting and the monitoring that enables you to provide that level of sophistication and really detailed analysis of what's potentially going wrong with the power for the customer.
It really, Justin, it's a great thing you brought up. It's really a tool to make your technicians and your company the hero in finding out what the problem. I'll give you just a quick story. We had a situation where a company's telephone system was glitching, was going out on a regular basis, and so one of our dealers here in the U.S. was called in to say, hey, can you help us with this thing? So they took an Envision and they plugged it in to where the telephone system was plugged in, and sure enough, they ran it for a couple of weeks, about 3 weeks, and they noticed that when they pulled the logs off the Envision, that there was a severe glitch. Actually, it was kind of categorized as a power outage. The voltage dropped so low, but it did every Monday at 1:30 p.m. because it timestamps, the Envision timestamps whenever things happen. So it's like, all right, well, there's a clue. It's only happening Monday at 1:30 p.m. So what's going on at 1:30? And they started, looking around the office and seeing what was going on. It turns out on the other side of the wall from where the telephone system was plugged in was the copy machine room. And inside the copy machine room was an industrial stapler. And sure enough, there was a meeting every Monday at 1 o'clock, and at 1:30, the assistant would go and print out the notes from the meeting and use that industrial stapler, and that industrial stapler was polluting the line. Since the copy room was on the other side of the wall, there was an outlet being shared that you didn't realize, because how electricians they will put multiple outlets on the same branch circuit, and they were able to fix the problem simply by running a new electrical line to the telephone system to isolate it, to dedicate it to just the telephone system and not share it with the copy machine. And it was all because the Envision was able to sniff it out. So that's just an example of this tool. So we'll go quickly, I promise, through the rest of the product line.
Apologies, I can't seem to get the. Oh, there we are. Sorry.
So again, I didn't point this out on the Access Elite, but the Access Elite has all of the 360 protection built in on top of, or as the foundation, and on top of that is all of the control features. We have a series of sequencers that are this, have the same four-part 360 degree of protection, but again, housed in a sequencer. And you guys are very familiar with sequencers and where they're used. This one has 4 banks on the IEC equipment on the back, but in addition to that, if you see that green connector on the rear view, that green connector means that it has control voltages coming out it for integration with other pieces of equipment. The trigger that starts the sequence either on or off is the front panel button, or it could be from a control system. It can accept a DC control system a DC control signal from a control system to either turn on or turn off. It also has a DC control output on that same connector, so that you can daisy chain multiple sequencers together to get even more banks of sequential turn on and turn off. The RT series is again all of our power protection, except there's no sequencing of the banks. All of the banks come on, or all the banks are turned off with the power switch on the front. It does have, since it is the RT series, that the turn on or turn off of the entire unit can be accomplished with that DC control signal. So you could use an RTI series device in conjunction with the sequencer, and if you needed a 5th bank of turn off, the 4 banks in the sequencer are available, and then when the 4th bank turns off, it sends a control signal, delayed of course, to this particular unit, and provides you a 5th bank. So it's just for flexibility. The rack mount series is a slightly less expensive unit. It has the advanced series mode, again top of the line surge elimination and top of the line impedance tolerant filtering, but it does not have the over voltage protection or the current inrush. We took those off to get a little bit better costing, and of course no connector on the back for the remote control of the unit. The standalone series, this is, sometimes we call this in the States a brick type unit. It is a rectangular profile. You can't see the depth in this picture, but the unit's depth is about the height that you can see there in the picture. So it can be laid at the bottom of a rack. It does come with a little right angle bracket, and some people affix it to some of the side rails in a rack. The vertical rack strips, or the vertical structural members of the rack sometimes it's put in there, and a lot of times rack mount UPSs are plugged into the SurgeX, and then in the rack mount UPS the equipment is plugged in. Sometimes vertical rack strips are plugged into this, so the entire rack strip is now surge protected as well. So again, our top of the line advanced series mode and our EMI RFI filtering in this unit. The Defender series. So I mentioned before with the Envision product that we brought that product over from our sister company, sister brand name, actually, I should say, ESP. It's all the same company. The ESP line has a little bit different technology for surge protection. It is actually an MOV-based technology, but it's a hybrid circuit. It's MOVs, gas tubes, and TVS diodes that are working together in a patent-protected circuit, which takes away some of the detriments of purely MOV-based surge protection. So we're not susceptible to overvoltages, and we have a much longer life expectancy because of when a surge occurs, the gas tube takes the brunt of the surge energy and not the MOV. So the MOV lasts a lot longer. So we call this an extended life MOV-based product. So with the Defender series, we're able to offer very reasonably priced surge protection. It's not quite surge elimination. So for lower price racks, right, the non-mission critical stuff, you can when you're up against a bid for a very, very low end a device, you can actually give them, say, look, instead of using that MOV based product that is going to wear out in 6 months, let's put this Defender on here. This is actually a quite novel use of MOVs and gas tubes to provide that kind of protection. And that brings us to the Squid device. So if the Squid is a very different device than anything that you can get on the market these days. It combines AC control. There's 4 IEC outlets you can see there on the side. Combines that with a DC power banks. There's 2 power banks in there. The yellow power bank is 12 volts. So actually there's 2 DC supplies in each one of the units. So you can get it configured as 12 and 12, 2 banks of 12. The red is 24, 2 banks of 24, or a hybrid unit that has 12 and 24 in there. All of the different models also have a 5-volt bus in there, output via a USB connector or a Phoenix connector, the little orange Phoenix connector there. And it's quite a remarkable device. It had to have both the AC and the DC in there. It's remarkable because what we've done is we've taken some of the control features of the Access Elite. It does have an IP port in there that allows for remote control of the thing, but it has the features of the Access Elite, the completely programmable sequencing. The sequencing can take into account both the AC outlets and the DC outlets, right? So the beauty of having the DC power supply on there is you can get rid of those external power supplies, right, which are very low cost and not very robust power supplies. And I'm sure you've come across the fact that when you're doing troubleshooting, a lot of times it's the external power supply that is the issue, right? And funny enough, I was just doing some during this quarantine time, I had our surge generator sent to me from the factory, and I've been playing around with the surge generator, and I found that when you hit one of these external power supplies with a surge, they have no surge suppression at all inside it, and I hit it with a 6,000 volt surge, a garden variety power protector. Not only did the garden variety power supply, not only did the power supply blow up after one hit, but it let through about 720 volts. And actually, I got another one, 810 volts, got sent out of the power supply into the load device. So it's they're not very good devices. So not only are they not very robust devices, but they also, if you got them plugged into a power strip underneath the table, sometimes they pull out, and it's a big problem. So having this hardwired DC power supply is just a great idea.
Vince, if you let me just interrupt for 1 second, maybe I can give the guys and girls a little bit of background specifically to this product. So we've actually been working on this product for about over 18 months, nearly 2 years now, and really this product is a typical example of how we are driven by our customers. So by that I mean obviously our customers come to us all the time asking for specific features to be added to some of our product lines, or I don't know, they're looking for, let's say they need a UPS, but they need a UPS in a almost like a dynamite case, because they're working in outdoor surroundings on live stages and places like that. But this product has very much come about and it's been driven by the demand that's coming from meeting rooms, huddle spaces, video conferencing, conference rooms, all of those areas where people need protection outside of a rack. Okay, because typically in those places, you know what offices are like. 1 minute the conference room is here, the next minute it's there, and a lot of times now things are put on a trolley, or they're pretty much, they're much more mobile than they ever used to be, and a lot of equipment these days, that sure there'll be a screen on the wall, but a lot of the other equipment is going inside of the desking, inside of the conference desking. So we needed something that was mobile. We needed a small footprint, mobile solution that would meet the needs of a growing number of verticals. So as I said, the first one, which is booming, is, dare I say, it's a kind of an unfortunate, but also for some people fortunate element of this whole mess that we all find ourselves in, is Zoom or different video conferencing facilities, and those more and more are going to be used. But also areas like digital signage, areas where people are using kiosks, areas where people are using much more mobile solutions that are being moved around a lot, rentals, staging, whole different areas of the marketplace. So we needed something of a small footprint that could resolve those issues. But at the same time, I'm going to state the obvious here. When you're in a rack scenario, you've got maybe $50,000 or $100,000 worth of equipment in that rack. And people then, if they're looking at paying an end ticket item of, $1,500 or $2,000 to completely protect their equipment, that's an investment that they're willing to make. Well, one of the issues with obviously all those other areas that we've spoken about, like small, areas of digital signage or meeting rooms and conference rooms, is the typical people are, the typical, if you like, installation is 3,000 or 5,000 euros. People are not looking to pay sort of 1,000, 1,500 euros to protect their equipment. So we needed also something that was more economically costed, and could take care, as Vince said, all of those kind of, they call them wall warts in the US, but we call them like bricks, don't we? These small little horrible bricks that are kicking around underneath the desks. And what often happens is those cables, they create a real rat's nest. They get in the way. Often what happens is people are moving their feet around under the desk, and then the plugs, they're coming out. The little plugs, or even the banks, they're coming out of the wall. And it's just not practical anymore to have that. So what we're really doing here is we're introducing a completely new, unique and novel concept to the marketplace that is designed to take care of all of those issues. And we're combining our experience of diagnostics, of sequencing, of IP control, and of course our source, as it were, our surge elimination and the other areas. So we're taking all the benefits of those, and we're shrinking it down into a platform that is accessible to those new areas of the marketplace. And already we've got a big pent-up demand for the product. We'll launch it during August. Okay, so it won't be available for shipping until August. But the other beauty is that it'll come in one footprint. So it'll be 120 and 240 volts. You can choose the voltage requirement as to your needs. So it's a one box solution, that the market's definitely been craving out for.
And we forgot the other the other major feature. We've packed in there not only the control of Access Elite, but the diagnostics of the Envision tool. So it's a Envision tool built into it, and actually in some respects it's got some updated features that are that exceed that of the Envision the Envision standalone. So if you can imagine having this behind the monitor in your huddle space, or maybe mounted up under the conference table, and it's doing everything for you. It's your main control center for your power. It's your AC, it's your DC, and it's also monitoring the power and giving you diagnostics. And oh, by the way, it's got IP control so that you can get to the diagnostic information remotely without having to drive over there and get it. So it's really a great feature, a great product.
That's a typical example of how an installation would occur with Squid there. But I mean, of course, there are a whole number of others. As I said, it can go into a kiosk, it can go behind a video wall, it can be used in a whole number of different scenarios. But I mean, we've just given you a typical scenario there where it can be used. And maybe Vince, you can run through.
Yeah. So here's some screenshots of what the user interface. So we didn't talk about it, but on the Access Elite, the way that you can program it and remotely access it is through the web server that is built into the unit. So you get on your network and you find the IP address of the device, and it's the same with the Squid product. It's on the network. It pulls its own IP address. You type that into a browser, and you can get to the web page internally, and this is where you have access to each of the outlets. You can name each of the outlets. You can name the DC bank so you know what equipment's on there, and then you can the big button on the bottom allows you to quickly reboot the outlet. Again, on our website, we did we have a webinar that is dedicated completely to Squid and to its programming capabilities and its use cases. So we won't go too deep into that here, but you can always...
I think one point to pick up here, and it's something where we had to play carefully, if I'm honest with you, is that we had quite a lot of requests from SIs where they actually said, look, with Access Elite, sure, there's a huge number of different parameters. The UI is very, very although it's not complex, it has a lot of things that you can do. It's very powerful, and it's completely customizable. So that's great if you're sat there and you're service support, or you're within a building and you're supporting the end customer. But sometimes in places like a small meeting room or a huddle room, the end customer doesn't want to go through to all the stress to get the SI involved, or there's that level of expectancy where the IT manager inside the building should be able to do something, right? And as well as I do that sort of video conferencing and especially huddle rooms, they're as much these days considered to be IT as AV, at least in the corporate world. So the UI here is much more simplified. It's much more user friendly. It's much more, if you like, button clicks rather than pull down and lots of different options. So it gives you that capability also to leave, once if you can imagine an IT manager or somebody responsible for IT, once they've had a very, very, very limited exposure and a very, very limited training on this, they can pick it up very quickly.
I agree with you. So our UPS line, what the biggest differentiator that you can talk about our UPSs is that they are double conversion online UPSs. In the world of UPSs, there are three main categories: the standby, the line interactive, and the double conversion online. And we only sell that top end, that double conversion online style. The beauty about it is full time. It takes the AC, turns it into DC. when it's in the DC stage, it's of course storing the energy in the battery, but then that AC to DC converter is powering the DC to AC. That's called the inverter. So the input voltage can vary all over the place, and the output voltage is rock solid stable because it's being regenerated on the site full time. So if it ever happens to go to a battery mode, there is no switching. In the standby and the line interactive UPSs, there's a relay inside that switches between the incoming line voltage, and then if that line voltage goes away, the relay switches over to the inverter to get that to get the backup. So in those kinds of systems, you're going to get 4 to 10 milliseconds of dropout time right before the backup power comes on. The other thing about standbys and line interactives, it just depends on the model. You have to see if it is a true sine wave. You know, some of the line interactives are true sine wave output, but if it says approximated sine wave or step wave or square wave output, you're not going to get this pristine sine wave output, which you know will give a lot of harmonics to the piece of equipment. So this is a great device. You know, you can you know, a lot of times, you know, some of our dealers in the US, they're starting to spec in UPSs not because the customer needed backup time, not because that was part of the bid spec at all, but they're putting it in there because they used the Envision tool. They found out that the power is very unstable, and they said, you know, for my rack, I don't want to have all the headaches associated with unstable power, so I'll put on this double online conversion UPS, not because of the backup capabilities, but for the voltage regulation capabilities. It's going to make their equipment last longer and perform better and reduce the service burden. You know, a lot of these companies have that managed service contract, right? And you know, the fewer times they have to go on site to service, the more money that they get to keep in their pocket. So it makes sense to include one of these UPSs, you know, from the get-go. So the UPS line, the top 3 that you see there are rack mount units. They're shown using the optional floor stand right now, and actually it's actually shown with an optional battery extension cabinet. So you can, if the spec requires you know, longer battery backup times, we can accomplish that by adding the battery cabinets that you see there. And so each one of those is 2 rack spaces in height, and again, double conversion online technology. You can go forward, Justin. You know, some of the attributes of the differentiators. Our device has more watts in the box, is what we call it. You know, UPSs are sold by their kVA number. You've seen that all the time, but you have to look in the specs to see how much wattage it can deliver. And you know, you see this a lot with the APC models, where it might say that it's a 2200 VA unit, but it can only deliver, you know, 16 or 1700 watts. Well, our 2 kVA unit can deliver 1800 watts, which is it's a really efficient design. So you know, so a lot of times when we're crossing over our competitors' units, we're crossing over with a lower kVA value, or conversely, if we have a 2 kVA unit and the competitor has a 2 kVA unit, you know, they might be only delivering 1400 or 1600 watts. We're delivering 1800 watts. You know, so it's great. The other big differentiator, high impulse current delivery, 200% overcurrent for a quarter of a second. What that means is AV equipment, when you turn it on, it's not going to trip the UPS to turn off, because when you are a double conversion online UPS, you are now the source of the power, right? The power company is providing energy and you're transforming it. You are now the source. As you know, the UPS is now the source. So you've got to be able to deliver that high impulse current. Others can't do that. On those rack mount units that we're talking about there, the batteries are hot swappable, which is a big deal when you're talking about service. So what's shown there, where the SurgeX logo is in the bottom section, that front panel pops off when it's rack mounted, and you pull the battery tray out and you disconnect the battery. The output still is on. It's still doing its double conversion online use, so you don't have to turn the rack off. And that's a big deal, because a lot of UPSs, when the batteries go down, the output goes down. For some reason in the design, they decided that they want to tell you that the batteries are dead by turning the output off. That's not our philosophy. We keep you up and running. That's the whole idea behind a UPS. Keep you up and running.
Something else to notice there, and I've been asked this, and I was asked it a lot in February at ISE. So another big difference of our units, all of our SurgeX devices, apart from our UPS, are 10 years warranty. So every single one of our products has a 10-year warranty. And by warranty, we don't mean if ever you or your customer should have an issue with it, you need to return it to Andy and his team at RGB, and they have to start fixing things and asking for spare parts and sending it to Europe or the USA. No, that warranty means that we, through RGB, will swap out that stock, okay? We don't need them to be fixed. If there's any issue whatsoever within that 10-year period, we will simply swap that item out for a brand new item, okay? Provided that there hasn't been any extreme abuse or somebody's sort of dropped it out of an office building. If it's a genuine issue, we will replace that like for like with a brand new unit, okay? In terms of the UPS, those are 5-year warranties, and the batteries are 3 years. But the beauty, as you've seen from our UPSs there, is that they're modular, in that you can add those battery cabinets, those battery packs. You can extend as much as you like. We even have sometimes customers that want, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, or in extreme cases, even 6 and 8 hours, and they've got a huge sort of concertina of battery packs. And that's because they're using them for things like home alarm systems, or their high net worth individuals that have them in their second home, and they want to make sure that everything's running and online until they can get to that second home, or an engineer can get there. But those batteries, what we do through RGB is, at the end of the 3 years to the customer, instead of having to pay full price for a new battery replacement, we give a 50% discount on all of our battery replacements, okay? So we may be slightly more expensive than the likes of APC in the marketplace. I'm well aware of that, but you're not comparing, as it were, a like product with another. You're comparing a product that's going to last, and you're going to be able to put into a customer for many, many years, and with a no quibble warranty, that should there be any issues, you can simply replace, literally, provided that RGB have the stock, which is normally the case, within 24 or 48 hours. So we can replace it very, very quickly. Sorry, Vince.
No, that's it. I think the last thing, if the large format UPSs, they have built into them an isolation transformer, which is a very unique feature, which allows you for the system to have a new neutral to ground bond established. And what it does, the neutral to ground noise in the electrical service is greatly reduced when you go through an isolation transformer. It also actually that last point's not important in your market. In the U.S. market, allows for simultaneously 120, 240 volt output, but you're 240 volt all the time, so that really doesn't matter to you guys. So here's a good example of using a UPS with a backup generator. I don't know if backup generators are common, but in your market for your customer base. We see this more on the residential side here in the U.S. Rather than the commercial side. But the reality is, when you have a backup generator, there are two problems. First is, when the grid power goes off, the generator takes anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds to get up to speed to start up. The second problem is, when the transfer switch switches from grid power over to the backup power, there's a harmful transient that occurs during that switching. And if you advance, Justin, you can see that when you use a double conversion online UPS in conjunction with a generator, it smooths out those transition periods, and your equipment never sees any downed power. And again, we're seeing a lot of this in the high net worth residential applications, where they're going to be using a generator as well as a large format or multiple large format double conversion UPSs, so that all the power in the house is completely completely treated and completely conditioned. And here is an example of such a system, where you can see the mains coming in, going through the meter. You got a generator in the bottom left corner, goes to the transfer switch, goes to the main breaker. Out of the main breaker, the large format UPSs are hardwired, and the output of that goes to a breaker panel that's on its own. In this particular example, we showed it going to our branch circuit product. We didn't show our branch circuit product in our product lineup, but it's a very convenient tool. The branch circuit device offers advanced series mode, surge elimination, and filtration in a box that is mounted next to the breaker panel by the electrician, so that the outlet is pre-protected before it even goes out in the field. So if you have situations where you can't fit power protection, such as a ceiling outlet for a projector, or maybe a video display wall, it allows you to provide protection there. But as you can see, this what we call this is a solid power foundation. You have no you leave nothing to chance in these kind of systems. When you have a generator, you have a double conversion online UPS, and you've got the world's best surge elimination technology, you're going to have no power dropouts, no issues with voltage fluctuations. Your equipment is going to work as the manufacturer intends.
So maybe before here, because I'm very I'm very conscious of time. We're about an hour and 10 minutes. Maybe we can just run through this very quickly, Vince, because what we're going to do, for those of you listening, is we're going to arrange for Andy and his team at RGB to send you this presentation with comparisons as a PDF, so that you've got this. So because I'm sort of a little bit worried about time, maybe we can run through this quite quickly, Vince, just so that people have got an idea of what the key differences are between ourselves and the competitors in the market.
Sure. We do it very quickly. When you're talking about the technology itself, if you go to the net, I think you go one more. I think it shows no, go back one. I just wanted to show the arrows, the red arrows. Even in Furman series mode protection. Now, remember that the series mode is only in their highest end equipment. They don't have that in all of their equipment. But even in their series mode product, they have MOVs in there. And if you have an MOV, the MOV is going to fail. It's going to sacrifice itself. There are no MOVs at all in advanced series mode products. So if you kind of just look an apples to apples comparison, a picture is worth 1,000 words. You'll see what's in ours versus what's inside theirs. A lot of what they got in there, you see, is lighting, right? I think go to the next slide, if you would. This really kind of shows the difference in design philosophy. Furman puts a lot of money, as far as the budget in designing their products. A lot of the budget goes to the ancillary features, such as the lights for the racks, or the display that tells you what the voltage is, or I believe some of them even have a USB charging port on there. When you're talking about rack mount products and you're doing an apple-to-apple comparison, that's why the inside of their device is very bare, and our inside of our device is very filled up with a lot of protection electronics, right? It's that's the main difference. So when you're talking about sequencers, again, you're talking about advanced series mode versus MOV-based surge suppression, and that's all really you need to say about that one. One of our customers over in Europe told us that this APC unit was was a common unit used for IP control. Remember that all it does is IP control. There is no protection whatsoever in these particular APC models. And as far as entry-level protection is concerned, we know that M10X E is a very popular unit from Furman. It does not have their SMP technology. It's just got MOVs on it. It doesn't have a very good filter. It doesn't have any overvoltage protection. And when you compare it to our Defender series, which is our version of a low-cost budget unit, ours is a much better value. And again, looking inside the difference between the difference between the 10X and ours, you can see they spent a lot of money on the lighting, right? That's mainly what's inside their unit. Again, a UPS that we come up against quite often is this smart UPS line from APC. Remember that is a line interactive unit. That means it's going to have a relay inside, right? That switches between the line. So remember, if you got a relay in there and it's going through the line, or the line is being transferred to the output, or the mains, I guess is what you guys call it there. Mains is just getting switched over to the output. What is the UPS doing 99.999% of the time? Nothing at all, right? It's just passing the power through, and it only is doing work when the power goes out. Again, this is they quote, I believe, a 6 millisecond switching time. The other thing is it's marketed as a 1500 VA unit, which it is correct. But if you look in the specifications, it only delivers 1,000 watts. Our 2000 VA unit is going to be 1800 watts. You can plug a lot more devices into our box. As far as a comparison to the APC, again, the APC unit is just power distribution. There's no protection at all inside that particular APC model number.
I think probably this is a little, maybe this is a bit complex to go through right now. Let's move on to some questions, because I know that there were some questions. Can you see those, Vince, those questions?
You know what? It's not showing up on my screen. You want to read them?
Sorry, guys, I've made a note of them. So if I pose them on behalf of the...
Yeah, of course. So carry on.
Okay, so one of the attendees asked, should lighting head ends be protected? If so, by which products would you recommend?
I will be honest with you. Lighting head ends. I'm not familiar with that terminology. I'm assuming that is like something to do with lighting control systems or something like that.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to unmute Jules Browning, who actually asked the question, so he can hopefully explain. Hi, Jules, you should be able to ask the question now.
Hi, Jules.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yeah, of course.
Hi, yeah, so a lighting head end is where you have panelized or centralized lighting, which contains all of the dimmer or relay modules that may be powering the lighting circuits in your house.
Gotcha. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Our branch circuit devices are used all the time in North America for that exact application, right? And
the beauty, Jules, of the branch circuit, both for home and for as it were for commercial premises, is it is hard. I state the obvious. It's actually a circuit which is hardwired into the wall, so it's kind of taking away that. First of all, it's a much more industrial, very hard solution. It's lockable, the box. And it's really designed to give complete protection, literally to the mains, right? So perhaps not in a commercial environment. The advantage of that is, you know as well as I do, you know, there's various people that end up going into an IT or an AV room. Everyone from an IT person through to a member of staff or a cleaner or a this or a that, and things get dislodged. People spill things. People make mistakes, and in a home environment, of course, you've got kids around. You've got the customer who sometimes might not know what he's doing. So it's if you like, it's a much more rigorous, foolproof type of system. Yeah,
no, that's great. I'm familiar with the branch circuit one. That's what we typically use for our AV side of things. So I just wondered if, as I say, what the recommendation was for lighting head end. So it's good to hear that that's one of their use cases. Thank you.
Yeah, that one. Vince, why don't I read the next question? So Khaled asked, can we add extra network line like a 4G network?
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand that question.
Can you unmute Khaled for me, Andy?
Yeah.
Khaled, are you there?
Hello?
Yeah, Khaled, hi, sorry. Please ask the question.
Yes. The idea, if we have a problem with the network in the premises, like residential, we have an AV system and we'd like to power up the system, and can we add any 4G network to the line?
You know, oh, I see what you're saying. Like as a redundant. Yeah, we don't have any wireless connection at all to our products. Even on the currently on the Bluetooth side, we're thinking about putting Bluetooth in some of our products, but it's not in there yet. The only way you can get into our product is with a wired Ethernet connection. So no wireless stuff.
Well, we have like a dongle from the network providers like EE or whatever we've got here, or BT, or so that you've got the extra modem.
Oh, I see. As long as that system has a DHCP server and can provide us an IP address, then yes. Actually, that's not always true either. You can go in and during setup give it a static IP address, and as long as it can handle the DNS part of it, the 4G interface, it should be okay.
Oh, thank you very much for that.
All right, thanks, Khaled.
Thank you.
Somebody anonymously asked Vince, so I can't unmute them. Do you make a single 13 amp IP controllable unit for remote control of a single remote device, i.e. like a residential smart plug?
Unfortunately, we do not. We have something on the in the North American product line that is similar to that. Actually, it's the standalone product has one, but that does you no good because unfortunately we don't offer it over there.
Okay, but maybe that's something afterwards, Vince. I can take a look at. I mean,
yeah, because it's we call it the what is it called? Oh, it's the SA20AR over here, Justin.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
And it allows IP connectivity to just the 2-outlet brick unit. Yeah.
Yeah. The next question, and perhaps this is something very useful. In fact, it's another anonymous one. Is the control open API for control from Crestron and Extron? Something that we didn't discuss is that we work and we collaborate with a huge number of manufacturers out there, not just Crestron and Extron, or RTI or Control4 or Savant or a whole number of other companies out there. But we work very, very closely with them, and even on Squid as an example, we're already doing beta testing with them and developing the plugins for all of those. So the question there, you can answer it, Vince.
The answer is yes. Yes, they're like Justin said, modules are already written for the major players in the control industry, and if you are a highly capable integrator, and you want access to either command line interface commands, so that you want to send your own commands to the Access Elite to extract the data or to control the unit. All of that is open. We will we can give that to you.
Okay, the next question from Mike Rampura, and because I can understand his question, I'll save unmuting him. How many surges will the Defender Series product protect against on average, so that he can set customer expectations?
Well, it depends on the amplitude and the longevity of the surge, amplitude and the duration. With most surges, most surge suppression devices will between 1 and 5, but with the Defender Series, when it goes through UL testing, it can withstand at least 15 full 6,000 volt surges, and it suppresses it down to the lowest level possible in the UL testing. That being the case, it's going to be more. We don't know how many more than 15 that'll handle, but I think that particular device has a 5-year warranty on it. I think I think we're 10-year on all the advanced series mode stuff, so you're at least going to get 5 years out of it.
Next question from Khaled. Again, can I use the 5 volt for all DC outputs? If you mean by that, can you get a unit that has 5 volt on all 3 buses? The answer is unfortunately no. We only have 12 and 24 on the colored connectors, the yellow and the red, and then all units have 5 volts, but you can't do 5 volts on all 3 power supplies. Yeah. Next question from Jules again. I noticed that the SXN 1230 product line wasn't outlined in the product lineup. Is there a reason for this? Because it's a great product. Thank you for the comment, Jules. No, I mean, there was a number of products that we didn't include within the presentation. Otherwise, yeah, we'd have gone from an hour and 20, an hour and 30 minutes to a very, very long time. It is a good product, and we didn't include the branch circuit and a number of other products. There's no reason why we didn't include it. Next question from Alistair Kidd. Is the replacement battery deal valid for every replacement, i.e. year 3, 6, 9, etc.? Yes, that's an easy one to answer. And we do that, Alistair, and for the other people listening, for a very valid reason that, look, we've got units out there, not just UPS units, but even surge units out there that we have customers coming back to us, and sometimes even at trade shows like in Infocom, wherever, and they've been using the units for like 10, 12, 13 years. That's great. We don't want to just sell people new units every 2 years, every 3 years, just to make money. We want long-term customers that have complete faith and trust in our product, right? That's what we're in the marketplace for. We're not just about, flipping customers after 2 or 3 years and making extra money. So yes, so for year 3, 6, and 9, if people come back to us and they require, a battery swap out for that unit, then of course that discount scheme that we offer for replacement batteries is still open. And then there's one final one from Alistair. Do you have a solution that protects a system from the failure of a UPS, such as an ATS? I've had experience with a UPS failing and taking all operationally critical equipment offline. Over to you, Vince.
So the solid power foundation, when you're using one of our rack mount UPSs, we say to use the brick device first that goes into the wall, and then the UPS goes into the brick. And remember, our double conversion online UPSs is an automatic voltage regulator. So it's going to be it's designed to see a wide variety of voltages coming in. So you don't really need some of the protection there. And again, there's no relays in the unit. It's on all the time, and you're going to get this, a wide input voltage. And the beauty about the UPS is if the voltage drops down far enough to where it cannot regulate the voltage, it just switches over to battery, right? So I don't know where that number is for the European units, since you're 230 volt output voltage. I would say it's probably in the low 180s. If you're going from 230 down to 180, you're just regulating the voltage and you got 230 output. But once you get below, probably, I have to look in the manual to see, but probably, like I said, in the low 180s, it's just going to switch over to battery. So you're never going to be without power. Now, you're going to have to adhere to how much battery power, how much time you can be on there, because if the battery runs out and the power doesn't come back, then of course the output power will shut off because you run out of energy. But the same on the overvoltage side. We don't turn you off because of an overvoltage. We just isolate ourselves so that the voltage, so that we're not susceptible to the overvoltage, but the battery takes over and still provides power in an overvoltage situation.
Great, perfect. And then the final question from Mike, and I think this is a relevant question, and we had this asked by a number of people at ISE. Can you reveal more information about the upcoming product refresh, particularly if you're changing to IEC input as opposed to fixed cables? And if we can expect at the very least a network port for IP control, power cycling through the range without jumping up to Access Elite for that functionality. So there's two or three questions there, but do your best, Vince.
Well, I mean, this is, going to your point, Justin, about listening to customer feedback and our, choosing our product roadmap back based on this feedback. So as the holder of the list of customer requests, yeah, I will put all that stuff on the list of customer requests.
We have, I mean, I can answer your question in two parts, Mike. Okay. So the first part about if we're going to be changing to IC input as opposed to fixed cables, that's very possible, and it's within our thought process, and it's something that we definitely looked at in Q1 to see how quickly we could implement, because there has been an increased demand for that. That people have asked for that. It makes their lives easier. And to be honest with you, us as a manufacturer, it makes our lives an awful lot easier. It means that when we're, and as you know, we're manufacturing our own product. It means that, we're saving time and efforts and monies by having that fixed element there. We're manufacturing, I think, even if we just take some of our most popular lines, about 6 or 7 different derivatives for different markets and for different voltages and different plug types and everything else. So it creates extra cost for us. It's the easiest way to go. But then also in certain markets, there's been a bit of feedback and a bit of kickback that people aren't that keen on it, and that they would prefer a fixed model for 2 reasons. One, because it makes their life easy. And secondly, because there's, if you like, that kind of grey area of legal implications. Because if you supply a product, it should be with a fixed cord and plug, and that they wouldn't want any issues, coming where the I don't know, further down the line the customer doesn't use the right plug or creates any issues. So that's the first one covered. And for the second, the network port for IP control. I mean, are you perhaps, Andy? Could you put Mike on again for me?
Yeah, hang on a second.
Are you there, Mike?
I'm here.
Yeah, hi. So the second part of your question regarding the IP control for power cycling through the range without having to jump up for the Access Elite, will that be taken care of by the introduction of the Squid product, or are you really looking for that that functionality through some of the rack mount product?
So through the rack mount product, to be honest, so typically I'd use the 1213 eyes. I completely believe in your surge protection. It's awesome, and it's
that's good.
But the biggest issue I have is power cycling devices plugged into it, which I can't do right now because it has no IP port, and the Access Elite is such a high price point for using on every single project. But there are competitors, like I'm sure you're aware, like Isotech, who've released similar products with the IP control built in at a lower price point. But then you could argue that the surge protection isn't as good quality.
But if that's but I understand if that's a critical element of what you're looking for, then I understand your your predicament. So it's not something we've currently got in the roadmap for Q3, that's for sure. But look, Mike, we're here to listen to what our customers need for. I mean, Vince, what would you say about that? Is that?
Well, you know, through the development of the Squid, we redesigned a lot of building blocks, right? That are going into it, and one of them is that you know, that the IP interface. You know, so what I'm hoping for is that IP interface card, which by the way also contains the Envision diagnostic tool, is on that on the network interface card. I'm hoping that finds its way into a lot of products, both on this side of the Atlantic and on your side of the Atlantic. I think that's going to be a cornerstone for us. The Squid is definitely a turning point in our product line. So we're going to see that technology proliferate into a lot of things.
Yeah, Mike, just to be clear, and that's why I said to you, you know, during the presentation, we spent the better part of 2 years developing that product, not just as a soulless product, but as you can well imagine, you know, and I can be open about this. Somebody would come up to me at ISE the other month and say, wow, okay, well, this Squid product, it looks to me like it does, you know, pretty much most of the things that I needed from Access Elite, and it kind of does, you know, the sequencing that we need, and it allows us to kind of, you know, mount it under a desk or behind a screen or whatever. Well, you know, aren't you worried about that affecting your sales of Access Elite? Yes, we are to some degree, but also no, we're not, because it's a different product, and it's catering for a different need. But one of the things I would say there is that, as Vince said, is we've developed a number of new areas around that product, so that we can trickle down that technology into the other areas of the product group. So whilst I can't promise it you for Q3, it's definitely something that's on our roadmap to introduce into the rest of the product line.
I think there's some really interesting kind of formats and product lines that you've got, but it's from an installer's perspective, there's a few things that we look for. One is to have enough outlets to power all the devices in the rack.
Yeah.
The Squid DC inputs are good because it eliminates having a separate PDU strip for those wall warts.
Yeah.
But also the IP control, so you can integrate it with DOMOTs or whatever to power cycle those ports. And then the surge protection that the device is providing. So to do that, you've got combinations right now of your different products. So you could use a branch circuit with a dumb PDU and a dumb power strip, or you could use your rack mount standard units, which are providing the surge protection, but not the IP control. So if you kind of see where I'm coming from, you have to match lots of different things to get that, all of that functionality.
And it would be nice to have that functionality throughout the product range, is what you mean. Yeah. No, and I hear that. And look, we work, you know, Domotes, the guys from Domotes, we work very, very closely with them. You know, Vince would tell you we developed product and a lot of projects around them. So all I can say is watch this space.
Cool. Thanks.
All right, thanks. Any other questions? Andy, maybe you can open the floor, sorry. Any other questions from anyone? Okay. So if there aren't any other questions, what I would say is this: we will send out informations from Andy and the team at RGB. And secondly, look, we're here as a manufacturer to work, very, very closely with Andy and his team to understand where we can get closer to working with you as a long-term partner. So we are willing and ready to provide you with technical support, with product support as and where it's needed. Training, we have no issue with. I can see already there's a couple of requests for people. They've asked for certain training requirements. Anything that you need from us in order to enable your business to flourish and to use SurgeX, we're more than ready and happy to give. So please feed those things back to Andy. We'll also in the presentation give you our details, both phone and email, so you can contact us and we'll help you in any way we can. Over to you, Andy.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for attending. Hopefully you found it useful. I certainly learned a few things myself as well. Vince, thanks very much for getting up so early and giving us an hour and a half or so of your time, and Justin, of course, for your input as well. As Justin's mentioned, we will be sending out the slides. We have done a recording of the presentation as well, which we'll post on our website and send links out to via social media.
Yeah, and one other thing, Andy, maybe we could let people know, and we'll perhaps do it in the mail out, is there is a huge sort of database online. We've got two things. We've obviously got our website where there's lots of technical documents and white papers and product sheets and presentations and videos and things. But then we've also got a separate sort of marketing site where we've got lots of videos and rundown of the products and previous recorded webinars and things. We'll publish and we'll send those to all of the attendees.
Great. Okay. Well, I think that's just about wraps it up. So again, thanks for your time.
Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.